watching News Central Television. This morning's broadcast here on the channel. Well, let's quickly bring to you news now and take a look at the top stories for this hour. Tempers flare during Senate hearing on Senator Akpoti Odogwan's sexual harassment allegation as INEC throws out petition to recall her. House of Representatives passes 39 bills and constitutional amendment for second reading in Tuesday's plenary. Mozambique president meets opposition leader Mondlane for peace talks. We have these story and more coming your way only on News Now. Do all stay with us. Stories in a moment. We begin the news in Abuja, where the chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, Nedai Maswe, has indefinitely adjourned Senator Natasha Akpoti Odogwan's sexual harassment case against the Senate president. The probe follows a petition submitted by one of her constituents accusing the Senate president of gross misconduct, abuse of office and sexual harassment. However, tensions flared during the probe following an exchange between Peter Nwebonyi and a former Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili, both of whom appeared before the committee as witnesses. News Central's National Assembly correspondent Seger Ibrahim reports.
March the 5th, Kogi lawmaker Natasha Akpoti Odogwan submitted a petition of sexual harassment against the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio. It was initially dismissed on procedural grounds, as it was signed by the senator herself, contrary to Senate rules, which led her to resubmit the petition this time through a constituent, Suberu Yakubu. He, alongside a former Minister of Education, Obi Ezekwesili, appeared before the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions to testify. The petitioners, however, expressed concern about the composition of the committee, questioning its neutrality and raising fears of an unfair hearing.
We are very serious here. The procedure of this Senate has been explained to you. It's been explained to you clearly. Your client is here. He's the petitioner. He's sitting right in front of us. Before we hear him, he will be on oath. Okay. Are you a witness, ma'am?
I am a witness.
You're a witness.
I am going to speak today.
Madam, with respect to you, you were once a minister of this Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please don't give me
Just hold on, please. Let me finish.
No, don't give me a lecture.
Let me finish. Madam, you will let me finish. It will be wrong for us after we've had this hearing and we say we cannot consider whatever you said because it's not on oath. So let's understand the procedure. Once we understand the procedure, we understand each other.
We do not agree with you saying that we are not here for serious business. Secondly, sir, we do not feel that this panel is properly constituted. The SAN is not...
Let me say something.
But we have an issue, and the issue is important to
Speaking.
Sir, but we're talking about fairness and justice.
I have the mic. Please tell me. I want to say something. Can I speak? Follow the rules.
The SAN is not supposed to be part of this panel because he has taken a stand publicly on this issue. And that is why we cannot sit here and take a vote in front of you.
You don't have the right to say that. You don't have the right to say that. Let me it is very clear that those who have come before us are not ready to be heard on oath. That means they are just here to waste our time.
Subsequently, the petitioner agreed to be placed under oath. However, the session took yet another dramatic turn when a heated exchange broke out between Peter Nwebonyi and Ezekwesili, prompting the committee members to call for calm.
I take exception to a senator.
Why are you talking to me like that?
You are a disgrace to the Senate.
You are an insult to womanhood.
You are
an insult to womanhood. And you are here to tell the world that you have not changed.
You cannot
violate. You are here to tell the world that you have not changed.
You
are. At 70, you have not changed.
With order restored, lawmakers clarified the committee's position, yet the petitioner insists he won't proceed as his key witness remains absent.
Because if you look at my petition, I stated it there that she's my number one principal witness who will come and testify, oral testification, and documentary evidence. Since she's not allowed to be here, I can't proceed further.
We cannot jump to recognize any person without hearing from the petitioner. And if the petitioner insists that he cannot speak in their midst, no other person will be given the opportunity to speak on the same issue, except that person is coming up with his or her own petition.
With the committee unable to make a headway, members moved a motion to adjourn the hearing while also citing the existence of a court case relating to the same matter.
Since he has no confidence in us and he will not talk because he doesn't on his petition, I move a motion that this meeting, this session should be adjourned.
Based on two things. One, the petitioner said he would not speak to his petition because the Senate is biased, or I'm biased, or the committee is biased. Two, the respondent has just told us, and the papers are before you, that this case is before a competent court of law. Therefore, this committee will allow a court of law that will not be biased to handle this matter. Therefore, this matter is closed here at the Senate and is adjourned.
While the committee's probe was expected to shed light on the allegations and its implications for the Senate leadership, it remains unclear when the investigation will continue. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
Well, let's now bring Chris Wandu for more on this. Chris is a publisher and public affairs analyst. He joins us here on News Now. Good morning to you, Chris. I'm sure you've also been, would I use the word mesmerized with what's been happening right there, just as you saw in that package, that report by our man on ground, Sagir Ibrahim. Well, let's get your thoughts on the developments at the Senate public hearing first off. What do you think went wrong there?
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me this morning. First and foremost, we have to establish the fact that the Senate, by its rules, have guiding rules that to investigate any matter either brought before it or initiated by it. So that is basic. So you can't fault them on that. At any given point in time, they can set up other committees, they can set up committees of the whole, or whichever committee to look at issues pertaining to the Senate. So their rules has given them the constitutional right to do that. Then coming to what happened yesterday, it was quite unfortunate what happened, because I thought that common sense would have prevailed and maturity would have also prevailed. But I first of all blame the chairman of the committee. Probably he did not handle the issue clearly well as the chairman. One, based on the fact that it has been established by the petitioner that he is biased on this matter. Because if you listen attentively, before the day of the initial hearing, the chairman was on national television talking to the issues that were before him, which he shouldn't have done. That is one. Secondly, he was also the one that came up to say that the petition was dead on arrival, based on the fact that the petitioner, Senator Natasha, presented her case or a petition signed by her. And according to their rules, the petitioner cannot sign her case, or her document as it were. But the next day, Natasha came up with another written document. This time around, not signed by her, but they refused to take it. So it's so obvious that the stage, they were just preparing the stage for what happened yesterday. Then, talking to the issue that happened yesterday, I will say, first and foremost, the utterances of the former Minister of Education, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, where she asked one of the senators, Senator Umeboyi, to shut up, was bad, in bad taste. You don't do that, even either privately or in public view. if you have a discerning voice, you have better ways of putting across your voice rather than asking somebody to shut up. That in itself, I thought initially that it was not true until I saw her in another national TV station. She agreed to say that, she accepted saying that something led to that. While we talk about obviously, the reply of Senator Webboing totally took me by surprise. Very, very undistinguished. The utterances is the worst I've seen of any senator since 1999. And I thought that by the preface, distinguished, everything that was done by a senator should be distinguished enough, both in utterances, action, and in actions. So for him to have gone into the fray of saying, you are stupid, a foolish woman, a fool at 70, this is what you cannot be here, you cannot, for goodness sake. Even in personal interaction, if it was, let us even assume on domestic front, if it was Senator Nweboye's wife that told him yesterday to shut up, is that how he's going to react in his home? So it's totally uncalled for. So, but at least good reasoning prevailed. At the end of it all, the case is in court, and what the Senate committee had done is to be able to, in order not to add more injury, salt to the injury, I decided to step down the case and allow the court to do their job. And that is what I think is the best solution to the problem.
All right, thank you so much for also breaking it down and also shedding light on it. But let's look at one of the major concerns. Do you think it was necessary to ask Senator Maswe to step down as chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics? And first off, do you think that the Senate could have deemed it fit not to have him on that committee, saying that he had already taken a stand initially, making it clear that the entire case was dead on arrival, yet he still was there as the one who was chairman in the committee?
Yes, from all indication from his utterances, it's obvious that it is an interested party, as we say in law, as far as that issue is concerned. So we cannot see himself as being neutral and unbiased, and that in itself puts a lot of credibility to that that committee. I guess that committee has vice chairman, I don't have committee. I saw the committee members as being as was screening on your set. So someone else could have not been asked to take over the He's just first among the people. Even the Senate president is just first amongst people. He's a senator. He was elected by 108 other members. It does not mean that the Senate president is higher than any other 108 senator in the House. At any given point in time, they can remove him and put someone else there. So for fair play, equity and fair play, I would have thought that based on the issues raised by the petitioners, the chairman of committee could have willingly step aside, not step aside as a member of committee, but as the chairman, allow someone else to take over. That in itself would have given room for fairness. But he's still digging, and as I said, he has made some pronouncements in the past, which goes to show to a large extent that he's biased, and nothing good can be able to come out of that committee if he was headed by him. So I thought that would have been the best thing, but in their wisdom, the senators, all these distinguished, they know far better than the rest of us, and in their wisdom, they believe that is the best man for the job, and they should carry out the job. But you see how it turned out.
Okay, anyway, earlier this morning, the former Minister of Education did join us on Breakfast Central, where she indeed, let's use the word, spilled the beans, broke it down on what really happened and the entire process and why what we saw on the screen actually came to look that way. Let's take a look at what she said this morning. I'll get back to you, Mr. Chris.
I believe that we're reasonable people. You wouldn't say, shut up, or please shut up to anyone without a context. And that context was essentially that he apparently came to the session as a witness for the Senate president. So he wasn't in his capacity as a senator member of the committee. He was simply there as he introduced a witness for the Senate president, the respondent to the petition by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Now, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan could not be at that session because, as you know, she was illegally and unconstitutionally suspended from the Senate. And also the person who represented her as the one who signed her petition, according to the procedural rules of the Senate, was the one we accompanied. I accompanied him along with Dr. Abiola Akiode Afolabi, who was also in the place of a counsel to him. And so the beginning of the conversation was actually very inappropriate in the sense that the chair of the Senate, as well as the members of the Senate, basically said we were unserious just because the petitioner, Mr. Suberu Zararuma, had indicated that he wanted to raise objections before taking an oath, and they said he couldn't say anything to them without taking an oath. So he said that the objections I want to raise are material for what I am required to say about the petition. At that point, we had a situation that was very reminiscent of a determination to shut down people on the basis of Senate rules. So the lawyer then said to him, you go ahead and take the oath, and then use that opportunity to do the objection. And following from that, I said I also wanted to take the oath as a witness, because I was there in my capacity as a person globally who is the chair of the Women Political Leaders, a flagship organization based out of Brussels that brings together all women political leaders around the world, female presidents, female prime ministers, female parliamentarians, and ministers in governments around the world. I only 2 years ago took over from former Prime Minister of New Zealand, Mrs. Helen Clark. And so I was a witness, also recognized by the committee yesterday. Except that every attempt to say this petitioner needed to be granted his right to make the objection that he had, which were two. He said, number one, I do not have confidence in this committee because it has publicly taken positions that are not complementary to my senator. Therefore, I will not expect that any presentation I make to them will be giving objective response.
Well, a lot has been said there. I do not know if I still have Chris there. Just very, very quickly, one last question. What do you make of the 10th Assembly? Seems to be so much drama every day.
Joe, let me just quickly react to what she said. I repeat, her use of words, shut up, is undiplomatic and is unacceptable, no matter the level of provocation. Dr. Obies Ekwesili is a diplomat, an international figure, and she should know better. But Senator Ebonyi also did not cover himself in clean road, because this is somebody who also came on national television and instead of talking about issues, was talking about the woman having that she has 6 husbands, or 6 children from 6 different husbands. Who does that, for goodness sake? Focus on the issue. And he has been so very everywhere supporting the Senate president. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but the fact is that he should also be very, 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 very. So he's an interested party as well. He is. and interested party. Then talking about the current Senate, we cannot talk about the current Senate, we are talking about the entire National Assembly. And I've said this time and time again, this current National Assembly has been so disappointing. In close to 2 years of the inauguration, they have become a rubber stamp of the executive, whether you like it or not, they deny that. And in my signing off, I will say that if, and I repeat, if this current National Assembly was the same one we had when President Olusegun Obasanjo tried to have a third term, this current National Assembly would have given it to him on a platter of good without looking back. And that is why I commend the efforts of people like Senator Ken Nnamani, former Senate President at that time, and late Gallo Umar Naba, who stood their ground as parliamentarians as stop Obasanjo from getting a third term. If you ask me whether this current National Assembly would have done same, I doubt if I would say yes. And that is my take on that.
All right. Anyway, let's also look at, I mean, I would have loved to let you go, but let's also look at a clip of the counsel to the petitioner concerning this situation, because it's one of the most talked about news, especially making the rounds now. Let's take a look at this.
The Senate members present were actually not ready to go on with the matter. And then they were just trying to provoke us and also to shut us down. There were attempts by myself as the counsel, the petitioner, Dr. Priscilla, to speak. At a point in time, we even agreed to speak. She even agreed to take the oath and then come in as a witness, which was what they said, that's the rule. What they said the rule was about. But they were not going to allow us. They wanted to subject us to a culture of silence. So it was, while that was going on, that the senator from Edo State had come up with some tantrums, was just screaming, shouting, and we thought that the Senate should have cautioned him at that point in time. And that was when the crisis started between him and Dr. Obi. He first said he was there when the Senate President and Senator Natasha met in Akwa Ibom. He was actually the one who would come and give is a witness, to the respondent, and that all these women, they are birds of the same feather and all of that. So it started with that kind of thing. And it was at that point that Dr. Obi said, shut up. Because the senators were also trying to tell him to calm down, and allow the proceeding to go on, that it was not possible for him as a respondent, to bring his, to respond to the issues that have not been asked, because we have not clarified from the petitioner, whether the petitioner was ready to go on or not. So there was absolutely nothing for him to respond to.
Well, I'm sure this would be my final question. Connecting the dots, do you see this case ending anytime soon?
Let me repeat what I said before, based on what she just said. I repeat, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili shouldn't have used the word shut up. She could have been more diplomatic. Then back to what you asked. Well, it depends on the Senate leadership. My fear is the part that these are even taking an international dimension. This issue is being talked about in practically all the international media. And that in itself does not speak well of our Senate. And I hope the Senate President understands that. He thinks that it's just about Nigeria or he protects his interest. It is also the interest of the National Assembly, which is the chairman, and the Senate. And he's not just talking about himself. The issue now concerns the 109 members of the Senate. So if they think that they can just sit and look and just, it's between Natasha and no, the integrity of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is at stake. And the earlier the Senate membership, especially those of them that are elderly and have well-versed in history, call the warring parties together to be able to settle this issue as quickly as possible, the interest and the name of the Senate will be continued to be dragged. To me, this is a total distraction. These senators were elected by Nigerians to be able to represent them, to deal with issues concerning them, to be able to also take care of their interests. But in the last few weeks, they've taken their eyes off the ball. and just talk on what we're hearing about harassment, sexual or no harassment. This is very, very embarrassing. So if this issue is going on, I believe the Senate President, as the Senate President of Nigeria, can be able to lead this in the board, call Natasha and other people that are involved, and they sit down, this thing can easily be resolved, and we move on. But if they continue to move along this line, then it is the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not just Senator Fabio, that is on the front corner, and the earlier they understand that, the better for them.
Thank you so much for your time, Chris. Wonderful joining us this morning on News Now. Thanks.
Thank you, my brother. Have a wonderful day ahead.
You too. Well, let's move over to the Green Chambers now, where a major step toward constitutional reform in Nigeria has actually been taken to the House of Representatives in Abuja and has passed 39 amendment bills for the second reading. The bills covering critical areas such as the judiciary, legislature, security and electoral processes aim to reshape governance and strengthen democratic institutions in the country. News Central correspondent Edo Joseph has more in this report.
Suspend the rules to enable us take the bills listed in the order paper from number 2 to number 40.
Leading the debate on the amendment, the leader of the House, Julius Ehonvere, outlined the bills, their chamber origins and sponsors, which received widespread support from lawmakers.
HB 2203, Abbas Tajudeen and Marcos Onobu, honorables. HB 789, Francis Ejirogene Waive. HB 1212, Nnamdi Ezechi, honorable.
Key among the 39 proposals is a bill seeking to hold all elections in the country on a single day, considering the high cost of conducting elections on different dates. Another proposal also aims to decentralize policing and enhance grassroots security efforts. Also under consideration is a bill that mandates the resolution of all election disputes before swearing in of elected officials, as well as a proposal making the Court of Appeal the final arbiter for governorship, national and state houses of assembly election petitions.
A bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to make the Court of Appeal the final appeal court in governorship, national and state houses of assembly election petitions and for related matters. Second,
for legislative reforms, one amendment seeks 6 special seats for underrepresented groups in the House of Representatives, while another proposes empowering the Chief Justice of Nigeria to issue proclamation for the inauguration of a new National Assembly and efforts to streamline government transitions. Additionally, a proposal requiring the National Judicial Council's approval for the removal of all heads of Nigerian courts aims at reinforcing judicial independence was also endorsed.
A bill for an act to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to make recommendation of the National Judicial Council mandatory for the removal of office of heads of Nigerian courts and for related matters. Second reading.
Those in support of this motion that will be read the second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The bills are referred to Committee on Constitutional Review.
With the bills now referred to the Committee on Constitutional Review, lawmakers will scrutinize each proposal before making final recommendations. In Abuja for News Central, Edo Joseph.
Well, earlier we had a constitutional lawyer, Abba Hakima, join us in the news to look at the multitude of bills that scaled second reading at the lower house. Well, let's take a look at his views.
Bills that, the constitutional amendment points are really areas of the Constitution that should have been long amended before now, especially those that have to do with election petition and those that have to do with the NJC's recommendation for removal of, heads of court. And of course, those that have to do with the establishment of ecclesiastical courts in Abuja, and a lot of other, bills raised today are bills that will really go.
The news returns shortly, but before then, let's tell you what to expect. EFCC rearranges former National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki. Find out what the story is all about and more in a moment. Welcome back to News Now. Former National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki and 3 others were rearraigned before a Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja on Tuesday over alleged 33.2 billion naira fraud. Dasuki, alongside Aminu Babakusar, a former general manager of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, and 2 companies, Acacia Holdings Limited and Reliance Referral Hospital Limited, face a 32-count charge of criminal breach of trust and dishonest release of public funds. The rearrangement follows the reassignment of the case by the FCT Chief Judge, Justice Hussein Baba Yusuf. Dasuki was initially arraigned in 2015 on a 19-count charge linked to 15.5 billion naira fraud, which was later amended and then rearraigned in 2018 on a fresh 32-count charge. The trial was stalled due to the prosecution presenting only 1 witness, and the case was indefinitely adjourned. Governors of 7 states governed by the People's Democratic Party (PDP) have filed a suit before the Supreme Court challenging the 6-month suspension of River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara. The suspension, ordered by President Bola Tinubu after declaring a state of emergency in Rivers on March 18, also affected Fubara's deputy and members of the state's House of Assembly. The governors argue that the president lacks constitutional authority to suspend elected officials or dissolve a state legislature under the guise of a state of emergency. They also contend that the National Assembly's voice vote to approve the emergency declaration was unconstitutional, as it did not meet the required 2/3 majority. The governors are seeking a Supreme Court declaration to nullify the suspension and the appointment of a sole administrator for River State. The Edo State government has designated over 3,000 hectares of land for farming, which will be spread across the 3 senatorial districts of the state. This is a consonance with President Bola Tinubu's administration policies on national food security as enshrined in the president's Renewed Hope agenda. The state governor, Senator Monday Okpebolo, disclosed this during an inspection visit to the state-owned cultivated farmlands, a move he believes will bolster food sufficiency for the state and its neighbors. While taking the governor on a tour of the farm settlement, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Osage Peter, noted that the initiative will provide adequate food production during the current farming season upon completion.
We have cleared about 500 hectares plus of land, right? So we are doing more. We are going to do about 3,000. This is the first stage, and the other side of Edo Central and Edo North, we're also having similar in those part of Edo State. So we are ready to farm, and we are not going back. As far as Edo is concerned, it's back to farm.
These are about 60 hectares that we have already cleared, preparatory for tractorization. By the time we are done with the tractorization, His Excellency sir, at about 5 hectares per farmer or farmer group, this place will be able to accommodate about 250 active farmer heads. And that will be guaranteeing food security to a great extent in Edo South and beyond.
Coming up next here on News Now, Mozambique opposition government agreed to end violence. We'll have more details on that story. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on News Now. In a significant development for Mozambique, President Daniel Chapo has met with opposition leader Venancio Mondlane for the first time since the presidential election in October, following the election which Mondlane has vehemently contested, claiming widespread voter fraud by Chapo's party, which later caused the nation's civil unrest, resulting in over 360 fatalities, primarily attributed to the police actions. Amidst this turmoil, the economic landscape of Mozambique has deteriorated, prompted the country to be classified as being in selective default after a distressed debt swap. The meeting held in Maputo aimed to address the escalating challenges facing the nation, marking a crucial step toward reducing political tensions. The Mozambique presidency has described this dialogue as a vital move towards unity and collective progress in Mozambique's gas-rich economy. For more on this, I am joined by Adriano Nuvunga. Adriano is a political analyst and he joins me live from Maputo. Quickly share with us, how significant is this meeting in the context of Mozambique's political landscape?
It is indeed an important step in the right direction to restore peace, stability, and hopefully an improved governance system. The core of the discussion, which is about ending violence, it is indeed important. The society is highly divided. Several pockets of violence during the day, during the night. So it is important that they have met, signaling that there will be dialogue to address many of the challenges that the nation is grappling with now.
All right, so how is the general public reacting to this meeting? Do you think it has changed their perception of the political situation? Do you think they would also be towing the same line as remaining peaceful?
Well, the general public is reacting in different ways. There is one important wave that is happy with the meeting, indicating that there will be stability in the country. But there is also a significant group of the population that they feel that this meeting, it happened as a surprise, almost in a secret, and no clarity what was achieved out of it, and whether this meeting, it will lead into something significant for the people. Remember, Mozambique is in its biggest socio-economic political crisis since the beginning of democracy. But there are major issues related to bad governance, grand corruption by Frelimo. So people were expecting that there would be a meeting that would lead into major agreements in terms of reforms. What reforms are needed to set things right in Mozambique? But of course, people are waiting to see what the next steps will be, as this clearly was indicated as a first step. But there is this mix. Some people saluting it, but some people bit hesitant, still waiting to see what happens next.
All right. I think my final question to you would be, how credible do you find the presidency's commitment to unity and collective progress following this meeting? Do you think it's credible enough, and is it really going to yield peace as widely touted?
Yes and no. Yes and no. Remember, Mozambique has been there several times, where post-election is violent, and it leads into the two leaders, not Venasio, not Chapo, but previous leaders shaking hands, agreeing to undertake reforms, but nothing of that happens. It is status quo that remains. So there is this feeling that this handshaking, it might lead to the status quo to stay as it is, and nothing for the people. Some they say Chapo is a new president, he's a young person, he might be committed to reform. But for what governance has been since his inauguration until today, there is little to believe that there will be significant change, in terms of targeting of human rights defenders, targeting of the opposition members in terms of killing, but also the major repression that we see in the civic space. So waiting to see, that is the general mood. As from past experience, there are no encouraging examples, but also from CHAP's own governance, his inauguration, it is not really clear where is he going with his governance.
I want to thank you so much, political analyst who joined me all the way from Maputo. Just in case you tuned in, I've been speaking with Adriano Nuvunga. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Let's move on now to another story. Gabonese soldiers are now training at one of the last French military bases in Africa, transforming the Camp de Guel in Libreville into a shared camp for joint training efforts. Once home to the French 6th Marine Infantry Battalion since 1975, the base now carries the new inscription, Military Academy. This change is part of a larger trend across Africa where France has withdrawn or handed over its military bases to local forces. Colonel Bertrand Jacquin, commanding officer of the 6th BEMA, notes that these transitions are driven by political decisions coordinated with local authorities to meet the specific needs of each country.
Dans le cadre d'une PMO, d'un partenariat militaire opérationnel. Donc c'est tout d'abord un échange avec les Gabonais. Donc nous, ça nous permet aussi de un peu nous situer où on est et surtout, ça me fait plaisir de former des Gabonais.
Vous savez, il y a le capitaine Thomas Sankara qui disait en son temps qu'un militaire qui n'est pas formé, c'est un assassin en puissance. Et le premier postulat du militaire, c'est la formation.
The Houthi rebels in Yemen reported that at least 17 airstrikes hit the provinces of Saida and Amran, blaming the United States for the attacks. The group claimed that these air raids caused significant damage to civilian property, but did not provide information on casualties. The strikes follow a U.S. military operation announced on March 15, which aimed to counter the Houthis' attacks on vessels in key shipping routes. This offensive led to the deaths of several senior Houthi leaders, while the rebels reported 53 casualties from their airstrikes. Since then, Houthi-controlled areas have faced regular attacks, with the group attributing these to U.S. military actions. The Houthis previously targeted shipping routes in solidarity with Palestinians, and tensions have remained high over Israel's blockade of aid to Gaza. And in sports, Nigeria's World Cup qualifying hopes took a hit after a 1-1 draw with Zimbabwe at the Godswill Akpabio International Stadium, Uyo. The Super Eagles dominated the match but struggled with poor finishing, missing several clear-cut chances. Victor Osimhen finally broke the deadlock in the 74th minute, but Zimbabwe struck back late through substitute Chawanda Chirewa. Head coach Eric Chile was frustrated with his team's wastefulness, emphasizing that they could have scored multiple goals in the first half. Zimbabwe's goalkeeper, Washington Arubi, made crucial saves to deny Nigeria, while defensive lapses allowed the visitors to steal a point. The result leaves Nigeria in a difficult position as they continue their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualification campaign.
My team was the best on the pitch, with the possession ball, with the fast attack. So just we missed some goals, and I'm so disappointed for my player, for the country, because we can't do it. Can't do it. I don't know the other game. I think we can go.
National Women's Soccer League NWSL side Washington Spirit has signed Nigerian forward Gift Monday from UD Tenerife on a 3-year contract with a 2028 team option. The move includes a transfer fee paid to the Spanish club. Monday reunites with Jonathan Giraldez, her new coach at Spirit, who previously led Asisato Shola's Barcelona to Spanish League and UEFA Women's Champions League titles. The 22-year-old spent 2.5 seasons at Tenerife, contributing 26 goal involvement in over 65 appearances. She previously played for FC Robo and COD United Amazons in Nigeria. Monday, who debuted for the Super Falcons in 2019, joined several Nigerian stars in the NWSL, including Asisato Shola, Uchenna Kanu, and Michelle Alozie. And that does it for the news for this hour. But before we go, let's quickly remind you of some of the top stories. Tempest flare during Senate hearing on Senator Akpoti Odogwan's sexual harassment allegation as INEC throws out petition to recall her. House of Representatives passes 39 bills and constitutional amendment for second reading in Tuesday's plenary. And we also took you to Mozambique with a story. President meets opposition leader Mondlane for peace talks. Don't forget to be part of the news. Yes, you can. All you need to do is be an eyewitness by sending in your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number there on the screen. And you can also follow us on all socials. We are at News Central TV. Don't forget to watch us live every now and then, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the following platforms. 10 a.m. is around the corner. The ladies are set and ready for Jasiri. I'm Joe Hansen. Thanking you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful morning.